The Awakening. In the year 2157, humanity stood on the precipice of a new era. The solar system had been colonized, and Earth's children had spread their wings across the cosmic neighborhood. Yet, for all their technological marvels, humans remained oblivious to the true nature of their potential, a slumbering giant waiting to be roused. Dr. Ilara Chen, a brilliant xenorchaeologist, led an expedition to the icy moons of Jupiter. Her team had detected strange energy signatures emanating from Europa's subsurface ocean, and after months of preparation, they were ready to dive into the alien abyss. As their submersible craft descended through the ice sheet, Ilara's heart raced with anticipation. Little did she know that this mission would change the course of human history forever. The darkness of Europa's ocean pressed against the submersible's viewports, broken only by the craft's powerful lights. Hours passed as they navigated through the alien seascape, following the energy signature that grew stronger with each passing moment. Suddenly, the ocean floor came into view, and with it, a sight that took their breath away. A massive structure, clearly artificial, loomed before them. Its architecture was unlike anything human eyes had ever beheld, all swooping curves and impossible angles that seemed to defy the laws of physics. At its center, a pulsating orb of energy cast an eerie glow across the ocean floor. "My God," whispered Dr. Chen, her voice barely audible over the comm system. "We found it." As the team carefully approached the structure, the orb's pulsations intensified. Ilara felt a strange tingling sensation at the base of her skull, a pressure building inside her mind. She glanced at her colleagues and saw them wincing, indicating they felt it too. With trembling hands, Ilara guided a robotic arm towards the orb. The moment the arm made contact, a blinding flash of energy erupted from the artifact. The submersible rocked violently, its systems flickering as the energy wave washed over it. Ilara's world exploded into a kaleidoscope of colors and sensations, her mind expanding beyond the confines of her body. In that instant, she saw glimpses of a long-dead alien civilization, their minds linked in a vast psychic network. She felt their triumphs, their sorrows, and their ultimate fall. As quickly as it began, the vision faded, leaving Ilara gasping for breath. "Everyone okay?" she managed to croak out, her head pounding. A chorus of groggy affirmations followed. As they regained their bearings, Ilara realized something had fundamentally changed. She could sense the emotions of her team members, their confusion and awe washing over her in waves. I can feel what you're feeling," said Dr. Marcus Reeves, the team's biologist, his eyes wide with wonder. Ilara nodded, her mind racing. "We need to get back to the surface. The world needs to know what we found." As they ascended through Europa's icy shell, reports began flooding in from Earth and the other colonies. The energy wave from the artifact had swept across the solar system, awakening latent abilities in every human it touched. Panic and confusion reigned as people struggled to cope with their newfound sensitivity to the emotions of others. In the days that followed, governments scrambled to maintain order as society grappled with this paradigm shift. Ilara and her team worked tirelessly to understand the alien artifact and the changes it had wrought upon humanity. They discovered that the artifact had unlocked a dormant part of the human brain, allowing for rudimentary psychic abilities tied closely to emotional states. As humans learned to control these new powers, they found they could influence the world around them in subtle ways. Strong emotions could affect electronic devices, alter local gravitational fields, and even manipulate matter on a small scale. The more intense the emotion, the more pronounced the effect. Dr. Chen stood before the United Nations, her voice steady as she addressed the world's leaders. "What we've uncovered on Europa isn't just a relic of an alien past. It's the key to humanity's future. We've been given a gift, a tool that could propel our species to heights we've only dreamed of. But with this power comes great responsibility." She paused, her gaze sweeping across the assembly. "We must learn to master our emotions, to channel them constructively. For in our feelings lie the power to shape reality itself." As Ilara's words echoed across the globe, humanity stood at a crossroads. The awakening of their latent abilities presented both incredible opportunities and daunting challenges. Some saw it as the next step in human evolution, while others feared it would lead to chaos and destruction. Research facilities sprang up around the world, dedicated to understanding and harnessing these new abilities. Training programs were developed to help people control their emotions and the effects they had on the world around them. Slowly but surely, humanity began to adapt to their new reality. Yet, as humans turned their gaze to the stars with newfound confidence, they remained unaware of the attention they had drawn. Across the vast gulfs of space, ancient eyes turned towards the solar system, drawn by the sudden flare of psychic energy. Humanity's awakening had not gone unnoticed, and not all who watched did so with benevolent intent. In the shadows between the stars, a vast fleet began to stir. A species long accustomed to psychic dominance saw the fledgling abilities of humanity as a threat to their supremacy. They had encountered other races with similar potential before and had ruthlessly exterminated them. Now their sights were set on Earth and its colonies. As the alien armada began its long journey towards the solar system, humanity continued to explore its newfound abilities, blissfully unaware of the storm gathering on the cosmic horizon. The awakening had given them incredible power, but would it be enough to face the trials that lay ahead? Dr. Chen stood on the observation deck of Moonbase Alpha, gazing at the blue marble of Earth hanging in the void. She couldn't shake the feeling that the artifact on Europa was more than just a tool for awakening human potential. It felt like a warning, a message left behind by a long-dead race. As she watched, a shooting star streaked across her field of vision. For a moment, Ilara felt a chill run down her spine, an inexplicable sense of foreboding. She shook it off, turning her attention back to the task at hand. There was still so much to learn, so much to prepare for. Little did she know that the true test of humanity's newfound powers was racing towards them through the cold depths of space. The awakening was complete, but the real challenge was just beginning. Humanity would need every ounce of its ingenuity, resilience, and newly awakened abilities to face the trials that lay ahead. The cosmic stage was set, and the next act in the drama of human existence was about to unfold. The invasion. 5 years had passed since the discovery on Europa, and humanity had made remarkable strides in understanding and harnessing their newfound abilities. Cities on Earth, and the colonies now hummed with a subtle psychic energy, as humans learned to use their emotions to enhance their daily lives. Empathy training had become mandatory in schools and workplaces as people adjusted to their increased sensitivity to the feelings of others. Dr. Ilara Chen had become a household name, her work on the alien artifact and human psychic potential earning her accolades across the solar system. Yet, despite the progress, she couldn't shake the nagging feeling that they were missing something crucial. On a crisp autumn morning, Ilara stood before a holographic display in her lab at the Unified Earth Space Command headquarters. She manipulated the image of the Europa artifact, searching for any clues they might have overlooked. "Dr. Chen," a voice called from the doorway. She turned to see Admiral Javier Ramirez, his usually stoic face creased with worry. "We need you in the Situation Room immediately." Ilara's heart sank as she followed the Admiral. She could feel the anxiety rolling off him in waves, and it set her nerves on edge. As they entered the Situation Room, she was confronted by a scene of barely controlled chaos. Military officers and government officials huddled around displays, their faces grim. Admiral Ramirez gestured to the main screen. 12 hours ago, our long-range sensors detected multiple objects entering the solar system at speeds we've never seen before. We've lost contact with our outposts on Pluto and Charon. Ilara's blood ran cold as she stared at the screen. Hundreds of ship signatures were visible, moving with unnatural precision. "It's an invasion force," she whispered, the realization hitting her like a physical blow. As if on cue, every screen in the room flickered, replaced by the image of an alien being. Its form was vaguely humanoid, but with elongated limbs and a head that seemed too large for its body. Multiple eyes blinked in unsettling patterns, and when it spoke, its voice seemed to bypass their ears and resonate directly in their minds. Humans, the alien intoned, its mental voice dripping with disdain. We are the Syndicate, and we have come to cleanse this system of your pestilence. Your feeble attempts at psychic manipulation are an affront to the natural order. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick. The transmission cut off, leaving the room in stunned silence. Ilara's mind raced, connecting the dots between the Europa artifact and this alien threat. The artifact, she said, her voice cutting through the tension. It wasn't just a tool for awakening our abilities. It was a warning system, left behind by a civilization that faced this threat before. Admiral Ramirez nodded grimly. That may be, Doctor, but right now we need to focus on defending Earth and our colonies. Can our new abilities give us an edge against these invaders? Ilara closed her eyes, reaching out with her mind. She could feel the fear and determination of everyone in the room, a swirling maelstrom of emotion. I don't know, she admitted, but we have to try. The next few hours were a blur of activity as Earth and its colonies mobilized for war. The unified Earth Space Command deployed its fleets, positioning them to defend key strategic points throughout the solar system. On the ground, civilians were evacuated to shelters designed to withstand orbital bombardment. As the alien fleet drew closer, humanity got its first real taste of the enemy's capabilities. The Syndicate ships moved with impossible agility, as if the laws of physics bent to their will. Their weapons tore through human defenses with ease, reducing the outpost on Titan to molten slag in a matter of minutes. Ilara found herself aboard the UES Defiant, Earth's most advanced battleship, coordinating with a team of scientists and military strategists. As they watched the devastation unfold, a desperate plan began to take shape. Their psychic abilities are far more advanced than ours, Ilara explained, gesturing to the sensor readings. But that connection goes both ways. If we can amplify our emotions, channel them into a focused attack, we might be able to disrupt their coordination. Captain Zara Okoro, the Defiant's commanding officer, leaned forward. How do we do that? We've never attempted anything on this scale before. Ilara took a deep breath, steeling herself. We need to link minds, create a psychic network of our own. It's risky. We've only done this on a small scale in controlled settings. But it's our best shot. As the plan was relayed to the rest of the fleet, Ilara and her team worked feverishly to modify the ship's systems. They rigged a makeshift amplification chamber, using components from the ship's gravitational field generators to boost their psychic output. The Syndicate fleet entered the inner solar system, their ships darkening the skies of Mars as they passed. The red planet's meager defenses crumbled under the onslaught, and millions of colonists huddled in underground shelters, praying for salvation. Aboard the Defiant, Ilara stepped into the amplification chamber. She was joined by a diverse group of individuals, each chosen for their strong emotional capacity and mental discipline. As the chamber hummed to life, Ilara reached out with her mind, connecting with her companions. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Emotions cascaded through the link: fear, anger, determination, hope, building upon each other in a dizzying spiral. Ilara gritted her teeth, fighting to maintain control as the amplified feelings threatened to tear her psyche apart. Focus, she managed to project to the others. Channel it all into a single purpose: protect Earth, disrupt the enemy. As one, they turned their combined will towards the approaching Syndicate fleet. The effect was like a psychic tidal wave, rippling across space. On the bridge of the Defiant, Captain Okoro watched in awe as the enemy ships suddenly broke formation, their movements becoming erratic. "It's working," she exclaimed. "All ships, concentrate fire on the disrupted targets." The human fleet sprang into action, taking advantage of the Syndicate's momentary confusion. Railguns spat hypersonic projectiles, while energy weapons lanced out across the void. For the first time since the invasion began, the aliens found themselves on the defensive. In the amplification chamber, Ilara and her team fought to maintain their focus. The strain was immense, blood trickling from their noses as the psychic backlash took its toll. But they held on, driven by the knowledge that they were Earth's best hope for survival. The battle raged for hours, a desperate struggle that spanned the inner solar system. The void between planets was lit by the flares of dying ships and the glow of weapons fire. Slowly, painfully, humanity began to push the invaders back. But the Syndicate was far from defeated. As Ilara and her team began to falter, the alien fleet regrouped. Their psychic defenses adapted, becoming more resistant to the human attack. With a collective mental snarl that echoed across space, they renewed their assault. Ilara felt the shift and knew they were in trouble. "We need more power," she gasped, her mental voice strained. "We need to tap into the emotions of everyone on Earth, the colonies, the entire human race." Captain Okoro's voice came through the chamber speakers. "Doctor, if we try to link with that many minds, it could kill you all. The feedback would be too intense." "We don't have a choice," Ilara replied, her determination evident despite her exhaustion. "It's this or extinction." With grim resolve, the order was given. Using the communication networks that spanned the solar system, a call went out to every human. They were asked to focus their minds, to channel their hopes and fears, their love for their world and their defiance in the face of annihilation. As billions of minds turned their attention to the battle, Ilara and her team opened themselves fully to the psychic link. The result was beyond anything they had imagined. A tidal wave of raw emotion and will crashed through them, threatening to sweep away their individual identities. Ilara screamed, both in agony and exultation, as she became a conduit for the combined psychic energy of humanity. The power surged through her, arcing out into space like a radiant beam of pure emotion. The effect on the Syndicate fleet was catastrophic. Alien minds, unused to such raw, primal emotion, reeled under the assault. Ships collided or veered off course, their crews incapacitated by the psychic onslaught. Some vessels simply shut down, overwhelmed by the intensity of human feeling. Seizing the moment, the human fleet pressed their advantage. Ships that had been on the verge of destruction found new reserves of strength, their crews empowered by the psychic link. Weapons fired with uncanny accuracy, guided by the collective will of humanity. For a brief, shining moment, it seemed as though victory was within grasp. But the Syndicate had not survived for millennia by being easily defeated. With a mental command that cut through the chaos, the alien admiral ordered a tactical retreat. The remaining Syndicate ships disengaged, vanishing into faster-than-light travel with a flash of exotic energy. As the psychic link faded, Ilara collapsed, her mind and body pushed far beyond their limits. She was vaguely aware of being lifted from the chamber, of concerned voices and the beeping of medical equipment. But more than that, she felt a sense of profound connection. To her fellow humans, to Earth, to the very fabric of space itself. In the days that followed, as Ilara recuperated in a medical bay on Luna, reports trickled in from across the solar system. The invasion had been repelled, but at a terrible cost. Millions were dead, colonies lay in ruins, and the scars of battle would take generations to heal. Yet amid the devastation, there was hope. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged victorious. The awakened abilities that had once seemed like a curiosity were now recognized as the key to their survival. As she gazed out at the Earth, its blue beauty marred by the scars of orbital bombardment, Ilara knew that this was only the beginning. The Syndicate would return, better prepared and more determined than ever. Humanity needed to be ready. "We've won the battle," she murmured to herself, her hand pressed against the cool glass of the viewport. But the war has just begun. In the depths of space, the remnants of the Syndicate fleet regrouped. Their defeat at the hands of a species they had considered primitive was a humiliation they would not soon forget. As they plotted their revenge, a new respect for humanity mingled with their hatred. The humans had proven themselves worthy adversaries, and the next encounter would shape the destiny of both species. The invasion had been repelled, but the true test of humanity's resolve and newfound powers still lay ahead. The crucible of war had forged them into something new, something that even they did not fully understand. As the solar system licked its wounds and prepared for the challenges to come, one thing was certain: the universe would never be the same again. The resistance. In the aftermath of the Syndicate's initial assault, humanity found itself in a precarious position. The victory had been hard-won, and the cost in lives and resources was staggering. As the dust settled, it became clear that this was merely the opening salvo in a much larger conflict. Dr. Ilara Chen, still recovering from the psychic strain of the battle, stood before the newly formed Terran Defense Council. Her voice was hoarse, but determined as she addressed the assembled leaders. "The Syndicate will return," she said, her words echoing in the cavernous chamber. "And when they do, they'll be prepared for our psychic abilities. We need to push ourselves further, to unlock the full potential of what the Europa artifact awakened within us." Admiral Ramirez, his face lined with new scars from the recent battle, leaned forward. "What do you propose, Doctor?" Ilara took a deep breath. "We need to create a global network of psychic amplifiers, similar to the one we used on the Defiant, but on a much larger scale. If we can link the minds of every human in the solar system, we might stand a chance against the Syndicate's next wave." The room erupted in murmurs, a mixture of hope and skepticism. The logistical challenges were enormous, not to mention the ethical implications of such a deep mental connection. "And who would control this network?" asked President Yara Mbeki, her eyes narrowing. "The potential for abuse is staggering." Ilara nodded, acknowledging the concern. "That's why we need a new organization, independent of any single government or military. A group dedicated solely to developing our abilities and coordinating our defense." Thus, the Psychic Resistance Network, PRN, was born. Over the next months, as humanity rebuilt its shattered defenses, the PRN worked tirelessly to construct amplifier nodes across Earth and its colonies. Volunteers from every walk of life came forward to be trained as linkers, individuals with the mental discipline to help coordinate the vast network of human minds. Ilara found herself at the heart of this new organization, pushing the boundaries of what was thought possible. The Europa artifact was brought to Earth, studied intensively for any clues it might hold about their ancient enemies or the full extent of human potential. As the PRN grew, so did humanity's understanding of their newfound abilities. They discovered that strong emotions could be channeled into tangible effects. Rage could enhance strength and speed. Fear could sharpen reflexes and perception, and hope could accelerate healing and boost immunity. But it was the power of collective will that proved most astonishing. When groups of humans focused their minds in unison, they could achieve feats that defied conventional physics. Gravitational fields could be manipulated, matter could be transmuted, and in rare cases, glimpses of possible futures could be perceived. These discoveries did not come without cost. Early experiments resulted in burnouts. Individuals whose minds were overwhelmed by the psychic energy they channeled. Others developed a dependency on the emotional highs of using their abilities, becoming unstable and dangerous. The PRN established strict protocols and training regimens to mitigate these risks, but the specter of misuse loomed large. Underground groups formed, seeking to exploit these powers for personal gain, or to push the limits of what was considered safe or ethical. As Earth's defenses were rebuilt and expanded, the outer colonies became bastions of psychic research and development. The harsh environments of Mars, Europa, and Titan forced colonists to adapt, pushing their abilities in new and unexpected directions. On Mars, terraformers learned to use their collective will to speed up atmospheric transformation, creating bubbles of breathable air that slowly expanded across the red planet's surface. The ice miners of Europa developed a form of aquatic telepathy, allowing them to navigate the moon's vast subsurface ocean with unprecedented ease. But it was on Titan, Saturn's largest moon, that the most radical adaptation occurred. The colonists there, isolated and under constant pressure from the moon's extreme conditions, underwent a startling transformation. Their bodies began to change, becoming more suited to the frigid hydrocarbon atmosphere. Some even developed the ability to metabolize the moon's abundant methane, reducing their dependence on supplies from Earth. As reports of these changes reached Earth, debate raged about the future of the human species. Were these adaptations a natural evolution, spurred by the awakening of their psychic potential, or were they veering too far from what it meant to be human? Ilara watched these developments with a mixture of awe and trepidation. The potential for growth and adaptation was thrilling, but she couldn't shake the feeling that they were racing against time. The Syndicate would return, and humanity needed to be ready. 18 months after the initial invasion, the waiting game came to an abrupt end. Long-range sensors detected a massive surge of faster-than-light energy at the edge of the solar system. The Syndicate had returned, and their fleet dwarfed the force that had nearly conquered Earth before. As alarms blared across the solar system, Ilara took her place in the central node of the PRN, located deep beneath the Himalayas. Around her, hundreds of linkers prepared to coordinate the largest psychic network ever attempted. All stations, report in, Ilara commanded, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. One by one, the planetary and colonial nodes checked in. Earth, Luna, Mars, the Jovian and Saturnian moons, all were linked and ready. Billions of minds stood poised, waiting to be united in humanity's defense. As the Syndicate fleet approached Neptune, humanity's outer defense line engaged. Automated weapon platforms and minefields, their targeting systems enhanced by predictive psychics, unleashed a barrage of destruction upon the invaders. The aliens, however, were prepared. Their ships were shielded against psychic interference, and they moved with a coordination that suggested they had developed countermeasures to humanity's abilities. Ilara gritted her teeth as reports of the outer defenses falling came in. It was time to unveil their trump card. "Initiate Protocol Omega," she ordered. Across the solar system, massive generators hummed to life. These devices, reverse-engineered from the Europa artifact, were designed to amplify and focus the psychic energy of entire populations. As they powered up, Ilara felt the familiar rush of minds connecting to hers, but on a scale she had never experienced before. The collective consciousness of humanity flooded through her, a tidal wave of emotion, and will that threatened to sweep away her sense of self. Ilara stood firm, becoming the focal point for billions of minds united in purpose. Through the network, she could perceive the entire battlefield, from the swarms of interceptors engaging near Jupiter to the capital ships exchanging fire in the asteroid belt. Every human, from the frontline soldiers to the civilians huddled in shelters, was now part of this vast psychic entity. With a thought that resonated across the solar system, Ilara directed the combined will of humanity towards the Syndicate fleet. The effect was immediate and spectacular. Space itself seemed to warp around the alien ships. Gravitational anomalies spawned spontaneously, tearing vessels apart or flinging them off course. Weapons fire curved impossibly to find its targets, guided by the precognitive flashes of a billion linked minds. On planets and moons across the system, humans channeled their emotions into the network. The rage of Martian colonists, their homes threatened once again, manifested as crimson storms that ravaged the Syndicate's landing forces. The determined focus of Europa's ice miners created psychic riptides in space, ensnaring and crushing enemy ships. The Titan colonists, their bodies and minds adapted to alien conditions, projected a psychic miasma that clouded the Syndicate's sensors and drove their bio-linked pilots to madness. For hours, the battle raged across the solar system. The Syndicate, despite their superior numbers and technology, found themselves overwhelmed by the sheer versatility and raw power of humanity's psychic assault. But the aliens were not without resources of their own. As the tide of battle turned against them, the Syndicate unleashed weapons of terrifying power, singularity bombs that devoured entire moons, phase disruptors that shattered the psychic network in localized areas. Ilara, at the heart of the network, felt every loss, every death as if it were her own. The strain was enormous, and she knew they couldn't maintain this level of connection indefinitely. They needed to end this, and soon. With a supreme effort of will, Ilara gathered the fading strength of the network for one final push. She focused the collective consciousness of humanity on the Syndicate flagship, a behemoth that dwarfed even the largest human vessels. The psychic energy coalesced into a lance of pure will, a manifestation of humanity's determination to survive, to thrive, to reach for the stars despite all obstacles. It struck the Syndicate flagship with the force of a supernova, ripping through its defenses and tearing the massive ship apart. As the flagship disintegrated, the Syndicate fleet fell into disarray. Deprived of their central command, the alien ships began to retreat, vanishing into faster-than-light jumps that lit up the sensors like a cascade of dying stars. The psychic network dissolved as exhaustion overtook the linkers. Ilara collapsed, her mind reeling from the immense strain. As medics rushed to her side, she managed a weak smile. They had done it. Against all odds, humanity had prevailed once more. In the days that followed, as the solar system took stock of the damage and mourned its losses, a new sense of unity prevailed. The experience of the psychic network had left an indelible mark on the human psyche. Old rivalries and conflicts seemed petty in the face of what they had achieved together. But with this unity came new challenges. The ethical implications of such a deep mental connection were hotly debated. Privacy concerns were raised, and some feared the potential for the network to be used as a tool of control rather than defense. Moreover, the Syndicate's retreat left more questions than answers. Why had this advanced species focused so intently on wiping out humanity? What secrets did the Europa artifact still hold? And perhaps most pressingly, how long did they have before the next attack? As Ilara recovered in a medical bay on Luna, gazing at the battered but unbroken Earth, she knew their work was far from over. Humanity had proven its resilience, its adaptability, and its incredible potential. But the true test still lay ahead. The resistance had held, but the war for survival, and for the very nature of what it meant to be human, was only beginning. As the solar system steeled itself for the challenges to come, one thing was certain: humanity would face its destiny among the stars with open minds, indomitable wills, and the unbreakable bonds forged in the crucible of cosmic conflict. The counterattack. In the 2 years following the Syndicate's second failed invasion, humanity underwent a transformation unlike any in its history. The solar system had become a forge, tempering the species into something new, something that straddled the line between the physical and the psychic. Dr. Ilara Chen stood on the observation deck of Ganymede Station, watching as the massive shipyards in Jupiter's orbit churned out vessels of a new breed. These ships were more than mere metal and circuitry. They were extensions of human will, designed to be piloted through a combination of advanced technology and psychic linkage. Impressive, aren't they? Admiral Ramirez said, joining her at the viewport. 10 years ago, I would have called this science fiction. Ilara nodded, her eyes fixed on the gleaming hulls. We've come so far, so fast. Sometimes I wonder if we've lost sight of what we once were. Ramirez placed a hand on her shoulder. We're still human, Doctor. We've just expanded the definition a bit. Their conversation was interrupted by a priority alert. Holographic displays sprang to life around them, showing a flurry of activity at the edge of the solar system. What is it? Ilara asked, though she already sensed the answer. Long-range probes have detected Syndicate scout ships, Ramirez replied, his voice grim. They're testing our defenses, looking for weaknesses. Ilara closed her eyes, reaching out with her mind. Through the vast psychic network that now spanned the solar system, she could feel the ripple of alarm, the stealing of resolve across billions of minds. They're preparing for another assault, she said, opening her eyes. But this time, we're not going to wait for them to come to us. The plan had been in development for months, a daring strategy that would take the fight to the Syndicate's home territory. Now it seemed the moment to execute had arrived sooner than expected. Within hours, the Terran Defense Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from Earth and every major colony attended, both in person and via holographic projection. The debate was fierce, with some arguing for a purely defensive stance, while others pushed for an all-out offensive. In the end, it was Ilara who tipped the scales. "The Syndicate will keep coming," she argued, her voice carrying the weight of one who had faced the enemy mind to mind. "Each time, they learn, adapt. If we don't take the fight to them now, we risk being overwhelmed when they return in force." The vote was close, but the decision was made. Operation Starfall, the first human interstellar military campaign, was given the green light. Preparation for the counterattack was a frenzy of activity. The newest and most advanced ships were assembled into a strike fleet, while the bulk of human forces remained behind to defend the solar system. Every vessel was equipped with a psychic amplification chamber, allowing for unprecedented coordination between ships and crew. Ilara found herself aboard the flagship, the TDS Prometheus, a vessel that represented the pinnacle of human engineering and psychic integration. As the fleet made final preparations, she couldn't help but marvel at how far they'd come. Humans were about to venture beyond their cosmic cradle, not as explorers, but as warriors fighting for their very existence. The day of departure arrived with a mix of solemnity and nervous energy. As the fleet prepared to make the jump to faster-than-light travel, Ilara took her place in the Prometheus's psychic chamber. Around her, other linkers settled into their positions, ready to coordinate the vast network of minds that would guide the fleet. Admiral Ramirez's voice came through the ship's communication system. "All vessels, prepare for jump. May fortune favor the bold." Ilara closed her eyes, reaching out to connect with the minds of the fleet. The familiar rush of joining the psychic network washed over her, but this time it felt different. There was an edge of excitement, of trepidation at venturing into the unknown. With a thought that resonated across the fleet, Ilara initiated the jump sequence. Space seemed to twist and fold around them, stars blurring into streaks of light. The fleet surged forward, crossing light years in moments as they rode the currents of warped spacetime. The journey to the Syndicate's home system took weeks, even with their advanced FTL drives. During this time, the fleet honed their tactics, running countless simulations and drills. Through the psychic network, strategies were refined, roles assigned, and contingencies planned for every conceivable scenario. As they neared their target, tension mounted. Long-range sensors painted a picture of a heavily fortified star system, bristling with defenses that dwarfed anything humanity had constructed. The Syndicate homeworld itself was shielded by a massive energy field, a shimmering barrier that encased the entire planet. "This is it," Admiral Ramirez announced to the fleet. "The moment we drop out of FTL, they'll detect us. We'll have seconds to execute the first phase of our attack. Everyone knows their roles. Trust in your training, in each other, and in the strength we found together." Ilara felt the collective will of the fleet crystallize into a razor-sharp focus. As one, they prepared for the coming battle. The human fleet burst into real space at the edge of the Syndicate system, immediately launching a coordinated psychic assault. Waves of raw emotion and focus will crashed against the alien defenses, creating distortions in space that threw off targeting systems and disrupted communications. Caught off guard by the suddenness and ferocity of the attack, the Syndicate's outer defense line faltered. Human ships surged forward, their weapons guided by the precognitive flashes of linked minds. Swarms of fighter craft, piloted by humans whose consciousness had temporarily merged with their vessels, danced through the chaos with impossible agility. But the Syndicate recovered quickly. Massive battle stations came online, unleashing devastating barrages that forced the human fleet to scatter. Ilara, at the heart of the psychic network, felt the shock and pain as the first human ships fell to enemy fire. "Push through. She projected to the fleet, her mental voice a beacon of determination. We knew this wouldn't be easy. Every sacrifice brings us closer to victory, to securing a future for our species. The battle raged across the star system, a dance of destruction on a cosmic scale. Human ingenuity and adaptability clashed against Syndicate technology and experience. Planets and moons became backdrops for furious engagements, their surfaces scarred by stray weapons fire. As the conflict intensified, Ilara noticed something strange. The Syndicate's psychic defenses, while formidable, seemed to falter in the face of certain human emotions. Love, hope, the fierce desire to protect. These feelings slipped through the alien mental shields more easily than rage or fear. Adjust your focus, Ilara broadcast to the fleet. Think of what we're fighting for, not what we're fighting against. Picture your homes, your loved ones, the future we're trying to secure. The shift in emotional tone had an immediate effect. The human psychic assault took on a new quality, less a battering ram and more a tide that flowed around and through the Syndicate's defenses. Ships found gaps in enemy formations, weapons fire became uncannily accurate, and the alien coordination began to fray. Seizing the momentum, Admiral Ramirez ordered the fleet to press towards the Syndicate homeworld. The massive planetary shield loomed before them, a final barrier between humanity and victory. All ships, concentrate fire on these coordinates, Ramirez commanded, highlighting several points on the tactical display. Dr. Chen, we need everything you've got. If we can create a weak point in that shield, we can end this war here and now. Ilara nodded, steeling herself for what was to come. She reached deep into the psychic network, drawing upon the collective will of not just the fleet, but of all humanity. From Earth to the outer colonies, billions of minds turned their attention to the battle, lending their strength to the final push. The human fleet unleashed a barrage unlike anything seen before. Physical weapons fire merged with lances of pure psychic energy, all focused on the designated points of the planetary shield. The barrier flickered and warped under the assault, its alien energy clashing with the raw human will being poured against it. For a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, the outcome hung in the balance. Ilara felt as though she were trying to move a planet through sheer force of will, the strain threatening to tear her mind apart. And then, with a silent flash that rippled across the psychic network, the shield shattered. The human fleet surged forward, breaching the Syndicate's last line of defense. As they entered the atmosphere of the alien homeworld, Ilara sensed confusion and fear emanating from the planet below. The Syndicate, for perhaps the first time in their long history, faced an enemy on their own soil. What followed was not the wholesale destruction of the Syndicate civilization, as some human military leaders had advocated. Instead, precision strikes targeted key military and governmental installations, guided by the strategic insights of the linked human minds. As chaos engulfed the Syndicate homeworld, Ilara felt a shift in the alien psychic presence. Where before there had been only hostility and the desire to dominate, now she sensed uncertainty, and beneath that, a glimmer of something else: curiosity. They're open to communication, Ilara projected to Admiral Ramirez. We've shocked them out of their complacency. This might be our chance to end this war without further bloodshed. Ramirez hesitated only for a moment before nodding. Send the message. Let's see if we can talk to these bastards. Through the psychic network, Ilara crafted a message not of words, but of pure concept and emotion. She conveyed humanity's desire for peace, their willingness to coexist, but also their unwavering determination to survive and thrive among the stars. For several tense minutes, there was no response. The human fleet held position, weapons primed, ready for either breakthrough or betrayal. And then, like a cool breeze across a psychic inferno, came the reply. The Syndicate, humbled by the power and adaptability of a species they had dismissed as primitive, agreed to parley. Their message carried undertones of respect, tinged with lingering fear and no small amount of fascination. As the human fleet maintained its vigilant stance above the Syndicate homeworld, Ilara prepared to meet the alien leaders face to face. The war wasn't over. There were too many wounds, too much distrust on both sides for that. But a door had been opened, a possibility for understanding where before there had been only conflict. Ilara gazed out at the alien world below, its strange geometries and impossible colors, a stark reminder of how far humanity had come. They had ventured into the cosmic ocean and proven themselves not just survivors, but a force to be reckoned with. Whatever came next, be it a fragile peace or a new phase of the conflict, humanity would face it together, their minds and wills linked in a way their ancestors could scarcely have imagined. The counterattack had succeeded beyond their wildest hopes, but the true test of humanity's newfound power and unity was just beginning. As Ilara prepared to make history by establishing first peaceful contact with the Syndicate, she couldn't help but wonder. In pushing the boundaries of what it meant to be human, in reaching for the stars with both hand and mind, what would humanity become? Only time would tell, but one thing was certain: the universe would never be the same again. The Reckoning. The Grand Hall of the Syndicate's central complex was a study in alien architecture, all swooping arches and impossible angles that seemed to defy Euclidean geometry. Dr. Ilara Chen stood at the center of the human delegation, her mind open to the swirling psychic currents that permeated the air. Across from her, the Syndicate leaders waited, their elongated forms radiating a mix of wariness and curiosity. Admiral Ramirez stood at Ilara's side, his military bearing a stark contrast to the fluid movements of their alien hosts. "Remember," he whispered, "we're here to negotiate, but we negotiate from a position of strength." Ilara nodded, then stepped forward. Rather than speaking aloud, she projected her thoughts, allowing the Syndicate to experience the full depth and nuance of human communication. "We come seeking understanding and an end to hostilities." Ilara's mental voice resonated through the chamber. "But know this, we will not be subjugated. We have proven our worth among the stars, and we claim our right to exist freely in this vast universe." The lead Syndicate, a being with shimmering, multifaceted eyes, regarded Ilara with an unblinking stare. When it responded, its thoughts carried an undertone of grudging respect. "Your species has indeed proven. Surprising," the alien conveyed. "We have existed for eons, spreading our influence across the galaxies. Never before have we encountered a race that could challenge us so directly." As the negotiations proceeded, Ilara found herself navigating a psychic landscape unlike anything she had experienced before. The Syndicate's minds were vast and ancient, filled with knowledge that spanned millions of years. Yet there was also a rigidity to their thinking, a sense that they had long ago settled into patterns that went unchallenged. Through the complex dance of thought and emotion, a picture began to emerge. The Syndicate had not sought to exterminate humanity out of mere cruelty, but out of a deeply ingrained fear of potential rivals. They had seen the spark of psychic potential in humans and moved to snuff it out before it could become a threat. "You must understand," one of the Syndicate elders projected, "we have seen civilizations rise and fall. Those with the gift often destroy themselves, or worse, become a plague upon the cosmos. We sought to spare the galaxy such a fate." Ilara felt a surge of indignation from the human delegation, but she maintained her composure. "And who gave you the right to make that decision for us?" she challenged. "Every species, every individual, has the right to chart their own course." The negotiations stretched on for days, a mental marathon that left both sides drained. Slowly, painfully, common ground was found. The Syndicate, impressed by humanity's rapid adaptation and the unique flavor of their psychic abilities, began to see the potential for coexistence. A treaty was drafted, one that would allow humanity to continue its expansion into the galaxy, but under certain conditions. There would be limits on the use of the most powerful psychic technologies, and human colonies would be required to maintain a minimum distance from established Syndicate territories. In return, the Syndicate agreed to share some of their advanced technology and cosmic knowledge. They also promised to advocate for humanity's inclusion in the greater galactic community, a vast network of psychically active species that had long been hidden from Earth's view. As the final terms were agreed upon, Ilara felt a wave of relief wash over her. They had achieved what once seemed impossible, a peaceful resolution to a conflict that had nearly wiped out humanity. But as she prepared to relay the news to the waiting fleet and the anxious billions back in the solar system, a new sensation prickled at the edge of her consciousness. Alarm. Fear. A psychic shockwave rippling through space. The syndicate leaders felt it too, their mental presence recoiling in surprise. Before anyone could react, the Grand Hall's holographic displays flared to life, showing a scene of chaos unfolding at the edge of the system. A massive tear in the fabric of space-time had opened, disgorging ships of a design neither human nor syndicate. These vessels moved with a fluid grace that spoke of technology far beyond either species' capabilities. The precursors, one of the syndicate elders whispered, its mental voice tinged with awe and terror. They have returned. Ilara's mind raced, connecting the dots with lightning speed. The beings who left the artifact on Europa, she realized aloud. The ones who warned us about the syndicate. The elder nodded, its thoughts a swirl of ancient memories and half-forgotten legends. They were our teachers, eons ago. But they disappeared, leaving only scattered remnants of their civilization behind. We thought they had moved on to higher planes of existence. As they watched, the new arrivals effortlessly swept aside the combined human and syndicate defense fleets. Their weapons seemed to bend reality itself, creating localized singularities that swallowed ships whole. Ilara felt a sinking feeling in the pit of her stomach. They had just brokered peace with one advanced alien civilization, only to face an even greater threat. But as she observed the precursor ships, something struck her as odd. They're not attacking indiscriminately, she noted. They're hurting us, driving our fleets back towards the planet. Admiral Ramirez, who had been coordinating with the human fleet, turned to her with a grim expression. It's not just here. We're getting reports from Earth, from all our colonies. These ships are appearing everywhere, corralling humanity and the syndicate alike. A new presence made itself known, a psychic voice that resonated with power beyond anything Ilara had ever experienced. It filled not just the hall, but seemed to echo across the entire star system. Children of Earth and sin, the voice boomed in their minds. The time of reckoning has come. In that moment, Ilara understood. The precursors hadn't returned as conquerors or saviors. They were here as judges, to evaluate what their students had done with the knowledge and power they had left behind. The next few hours were a blur of frantic activity, as the precursor ships took up positions around every world inhabited by humans or syndicate. Representatives from both species were transported to a massive space station that had appeared in orbit around the syndicate homeworld. Ilara found herself standing beside the syndicate leaders, facing a being that defied easy description. It shifted and flowed, more energy than matter, its thoughts a symphony of complexity that threatened to overwhelm her senses. We seeded the galaxies with the potential for psychic awakening, the precursor explained, its mental voice surprisingly gentle despite its power. We hoped to foster a community of species that could grow together, learning from each other, balancing the physical and the mental. The being's form rippled, displaying scenes from human and syndicate history. Ilara saw the triumphs and atrocities of both civilizations laid bare. Instead, we find conflict, domination. The gifts we left behind turned to weapons. The disappointment in the precursor's voice was palpable. And now we must decide your fate. Ilara felt the weight of entire civilizations on her shoulders. She knew that whatever she said next could determine the future of not just humanity, but of the syndicate as well. Taking a deep breath, she stepped forward. We've made mistakes, she admitted, her thoughts open and honest. Both of our species have. But in our conflict, we've also found the potential for growth, for understanding. We were on the brink of peace when you arrived. She gestured to the syndicate leaders, feeling their reluctant agreement through the psychic link. We're young compared to you, still learning to harness these abilities. But isn't that the point? To learn, to evolve, to strive for something greater. The precursor seemed to consider her words, its form swirling with contemplation. And what of the destruction you've caused? The lives lost, the world scared by your wars. It was one of the syndicate elders who answered, its mental voice hesitant but determined. We bear the greater blame for that. We acted out of fear, seeking to destroy what we didn't understand. But in facing the humans, in being forced to see them as equals, we've learned more than we had in millennia of unchallenged dominance. Ilara felt a surge of hope. She pressed on, drawing on the combined experiences of humanity and the syndicate. Look at what we've accomplished, even in the midst of conflict. We've pushed the boundaries of what we thought possible. Imagine what we could do together, with guidance rather than judgment. For what seemed like an eternity, the precursor was silent. Ilara could feel the psychic energy in the station shifting, rippling with the weight of the decision being made. Finally, the ancient being spoke. Perhaps, it mused, we were too hasty in our judgment. The path to enlightenment is rarely smooth, and it is through challenges that true growth occurs. The precursor's form expanded, encompassing the entire station in its radiance. We will not decide your fate for you. Instead, we offer a choice. Continue as you are, and we will withdraw, leaving you to face the consequences of your actions. Or accept our guidance, join the greater galactic community, and work together to heal the wounds you've inflicted upon each other and the cosmos. Ilara didn't hesitate. She reached out, both physically and mentally, to the syndicate elder beside her. After a moment's hesitation, the alien took her hand, their minds linking in a gesture of unity. We choose to move forward, together, Ilara declared, her voice echoing with the combined will of humanity and the syndicate. The precursor's approval washed over them like a warm breeze. Then let the great reconciliation begin. In the days and weeks that followed, the galaxy witnessed a transformation unlike any in its history. The precursors, true to their word, did not simply hand over advanced technology or psychic techniques. Instead, they served as teachers and mediators, guiding humanity and the syndicate towards a deeper understanding of their place in the cosmos. The process was not without its challenges. Centuries of mistrust and conflict could not be erased overnight. There were those on both sides who resisted the change, clinging to old hatreds and fears. But with the precursor's guidance and the tireless efforts of individuals like Ilara, progress was made. Humanity's unique approach to psychic abilities, driven by emotion and collective will, proved to be a valuable contribution to the galactic community. The syndicate's vast knowledge and experience, tempered now by a newfound appreciation for diversity, helped stabilize regions of space long plagued by conflict. As the years passed, the boundaries between species began to blur. Humans adapted to life on worlds that would have once been considered uninhabitable, their bodies and minds evolving in concert with their environments. The syndicate, inspired by human creativity, experienced a renaissance of culture and scientific innovation. Ilara, now a respected elder in her own right, stood on the observation deck of Unity Station, a massive structure at the heart of what had once been contested space. Below her, ships of human, syndicate, and a dozen other species moved in harmonious patterns, their crews linked in a vast psychic network that spanned the galaxy. She felt a familiar presence approach, the syndicate elder who had stood with her in that pivotal moment before the precursors. Over the years, they had become close friends and collaborators. Did you ever imagine it would turn out like this? The syndicate asked, its mental voice warm with affection and shared memories. Ilara smiled, gazing out at the star-studded expanse. Not in my wildest dreams, she admitted. But that's the beauty of it, isn't it? The universe is full of possibilities we can't even conceive of until we're challenged to grow beyond our limitations. As they stood together, watching the ebb and flow of galactic civilization, Ilara felt a profound sense of peace. The road had been long and fraught with peril, but humanity had found its place among the stars, not through conquest or domination, but through understanding, adaptation, and the indomitable spirit that had driven them from their first steps on Earth to the farthest reaches of the cosmos. The reckoning had come, and humanity had risen to the challenge. Whatever the future held, they would face it not alone, but as part of a grand tapestry of sentient life, forever reaching towards new horizons.